Well, hi, and welcome to another episode of Proven Principles. My name is Jeff Gamagami. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects in the whole world. It was one of the things that when I first started in this industry, it just lit myself with excitement to understand the demographics and the trends that were pushing this whole anti-aging industry. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking to you about the aging population and really why it's just absolutely such an incredible timing to be involved in the anti-aging market right now. In fact, I don't know why you'd want to be involved in any other kind of industry but something related to anti-aging. I mean, let's face it, business is all about finding a need and filling it. And right now, there's no bigger need in the world than to supply the wants and needs of the aging baby boom population. Let me use the board and give you a simple example, if you like, of what's been happening demographically over the last 50, almost 60 years, so we can look at the past, look at today, and more importantly, predict the future. Okay, so first I want to draw you a simple diagram. This is a diagram. I'm going to use a garden hose as an example, and inside that garden hose we're going to put a football. And that football represents the aging population, the bulge in our population called the baby boomers. Now, for those of you, I'm sure, have heard the name baby boomer, but maybe you don't understand exactly how it came about. Between 1946 and 1964, 1/3 of the population in the OECD countries were born. And what kind of happened was after World War II, the boys came home from war and they caught up with their wives and their girlfriends. And for the next 18 years, more babies were born than ever before or ever since. And this created a boom in the birth rate in the babies. And so in the 1940s, if we were to imagine this football back here in the 1940s, anything baby-orientated became popular culture. And so from Kodak to Pampers, Gerber, here in New Zealand, Waddy's in a tin shed, they didn't make better frozen peas or canned goods. It just there was a bigger supply of babies to see. And those industries just boomed. In the 1950s, as this bulge here was back over here, in the 1950s we started to see the toy industries start to actually burgeon. Hula hoops, skateboards, slinkies, Barbie dolls, all the comic book characters from Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, etc. Were all produced. Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, all those things really took off back in the 1950s. In the 1960s, the baby industries were still growing, the toy industries were still growing because babies were still coming and children were still coming. But all of a sudden, the leading edge, who were born in the 1940s, they started to become teenagers in the 60s, and we started to see anything teenage-focused become a popular culture. Buddy Holly, rock and roll, the Beatles, fast cars, Ford Mustang. You get the idea. Are you seeing a trend here? In the 1970s, the leading edge turned into young adults, and we started to see flower power and peace marches as we had these young adults burgeon into our society. And 1980s, the leading edge of the boomers moved from their 20s into their 30s, and the hippies turned into yuppies. We saw first home buyers, for example, the housing boom we had back in the 1980s. You couldn't have gone wrong in the 80s in property. The people who were buying Ford Mustangs back here in the 60s were now buying minivans. And so you can start to see trends all over based on this. In the 1990s, here, we started to see that leading generation. So here we got the yuppie, etc., the 30-year-olds. In the 1990s, the leading edge reached 40. And of course, as we see, people reach 40, they hit midlife crisis, and perhaps their father had been in a profession, and they had joined that same profession, maybe their grandfather, father, etc., and themselves, and they decided, I don't like that profession. They had midlife crisis. We had Deepak Chopra, Oprah, Landmark Education, Tony Robbins. We could go on and on and on. Susan Jeffers, Field of Fear and Do It Anyway. We had this whole personal development industry just burgeoning because of demographics. The health and fitness industry is another industry. At age 40, things start to slow down in our metabolic factors, and we start to see gravity take effect everywhere, and so the fitness industry started to boom. In the last 10 years, as we moved into this new millennium here, in the 00, if you like, this generation moved into their 50s. And for the first time ever, the leading edge started to become very, very interested and obsessed almost with anti-aging. And we've seen over the last 10 years, of course, what an incredible time that's been. Today, this baby boom generation, the youngest of the boomers right now are age 47 years old. The oldest of the boomers are right now age 65 years old. Now what's interesting about that is that this generation, the entire generation, are interested in anti-aging. None of them want to get old. They're also very interested in lifestyle, anything to do with travel and lifestyle and leisure. They're also very focused on retirement. The leading edge is just on the edge of retiring right now, and most of them, 95%, don't have enough money to retire, and so they're very concerned about these things. But what's very, very interesting is, for the first time ever, the youngest and the oldest are all in that category, that life stage where anti-aging is a very, very big concern for them. Lines and wrinkles, I mean, let's face it, none of them want to look older and none of them want to feel older. They want to feel and look as good as they can for as long as they can. And believe me, if you're in your 20s today, you think a 40, 50, 60-year-old is old. But if you're median age here 55, believe me, it's prime. And so this generation wants to, they want to take 100 years to age to 50. And so it's exciting. Now, if we take a look into the future, and this is what's very exciting, if I take this bulge and I go out 10 years and 20 years and even 30 years into the future, you see, in 10 years' time, this generation will be 57 to 75. In 20 years, they'll be 67 to 85. And this generation is still going to be interested in products and services that meet their needs to help them look and feel better. Keep them feeling like they want to feel. But what's exciting is their children, the X and Y generation, the ones that are in their 20s and 30s right now, as they, over the next 10 and 20 years, move into this same life stage, the market's exploding. It's absolutely out of control. There are people who believe that the anti-aging industry will be the next trillion-dollar industry. And it's simply based on demographics. Demographics of everyone at the same time wanting the same products, and as time moves on, the X and Ys, their children and their grandchildren, moving towards that same stage. And I'm sure that as you understand this and spend some time to think about what I've just said to you, you'll understand that, again, while you're in the right place at the right time, right now. And for those of you who take action with a product like ageLOC, the technology that for the first time can actually go to the source of aging and literally reset those youth gene clusters to behave like they did when they're younger again. I mean, giving this baby boom generation the energy of a 20-year-old, the health of a 20-year-old again. Wow, you can imagine that this is going to be a massive, massive trend. So I hope this has been clear for you, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Proven Principles. Bye for now.